Well, good morning, everybody. This is Bob Engel, and I'm guest hosting uh, uh, the Tacos Coffee Cafe, no coffee or tacos required, on October 3rd, 2024. Uh, the 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 Zoo Master, or is it Zoom Master? Dale Howie is on a previously scheduled appointment, and we were just sort of freelance conversing about what happens when you honor someone, how that impacts them. And sis, why don't you go with your experience in speaking at Dr. Tony Robinson's session in Vegas last week, and the two times that you've done that, and how that's spoken to your spirit.
Yeah, thank you. Because this is honoring as well. It's honoring my voice and allowing me space for that. And I don't think we as a church do that enough. We don't honor other people's voices. And I think there's just everybody is just clamoring to be heard. But what we were talking about ahead of time and just the journey that I'm on right now of allowing myself to fully walk in freedom, just giving myself permission
Hmm.
to do what I know that I'm called to do. Like a lot of us in the taco group, we've had a lot of church hurt, church trauma, whatever we want to call it. Um, and a year ago, August, we walked away from a church that we've been at 4 years, serving just wholeheartedly. Um, not even going to go into all the details of stuff we did, but let's just say we were committed and never asked for anything. And, one thing after another. And some people just aren't ready for who you are, right? Um, and so there was just one thing too many, and we walked away a year ago, August, and haven't looked back. And it's just like, God, I mean, it was such a painful thing that my husband and I even got counseling for it, to like make sure we were honoring, to make sure we weren't just, well, they don't like us, we're leaving, because a lot of people do that. They, out of their own woundings and their own hurts, they just pitch a fit and leave, right? Instead of owning, okay, what's my part in this, and to me, it is it is not beyond reconciliation. There's a bridge still there, but I'm not going to say I'm holding the match, but there's definitely a match being held for it. And
My
go
my
ahead.
friend Steve Grauberger down in Nashville, he's a songwriter in Nashville. One of his lyrics, he wrote, "May the bridges that I burn light my way."
Mm.
I
You
mean,
know what? I will take that. Yeah.
well, there isn't any going back. I mean, at least not in God's plan. There isn't any going back. There is meeting down the road.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. We can say it
Yeah.
that way. And that's the thing. So we walked away. I'm like, I'm not, like, literally the last meeting we had, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm done. I got up and I walked out because I didn't want to say things that would burn that bridge, right? Because that wasn't my heart. And I could see they're wrong in the situation, and that it's like it. Anyway, fast forward to a year later in August. And Dr. Tony Robinson, I don't know, some of you know her from School
We
of
all, yeah,
Kingdom.
we all know Dr.
Okay.
Tony. Absolutely.
Yeah. So she does all kinds of retreats. And this particular retreat was it was called Create. And it was about, the theme is retreat creating, which is hard to say 10 times fast. It was a retreat creating retreat. And so I was there the weekend, and literally it was almost to the day of when we walked away from the church, when the last meeting that we had with the pastor. And during this retreat, she just came to me. We were sharing about the retreat that were on our heart. My whole retreat is around the woman at the well, which is coming in March for any ladies who want to come. Uh, but I just shared, like, she gets 5 minutes, share about your retreat, pitch your retreat. What is it? All the things. And I did. And she came to me later and she goes, "You're going to be teaching this weekend on your retreat." And I'm like, okay, and so there was this almost like popping of a cork. I felt so much honor after 4 years of just trash, right? And in that moment, I started giving myself permission. And the scripture, having honor with God and man. And for me, and it's not a performance thing, when I'm doing my best to honor those around me, doing everything that I can, God makes a way. And we lose track of that. Like, we have to jump through the hoops and we have to do the things, to fit into this church or this culture or whatever. And so I've just spent literally the last year pretty much by myself, you know, doing School of Kingdom and just me, not trying to fit in anywhere. And then all of a sudden I'm invited these places to do that. Like, no one's ever spoke at Dr. Tony's retreats. She's had more than 100 retreats and I'm the only one she's ever asked to speak. And that was on the fly, right? That blew my mind when she told me that 2 days later after I spoke.
You said to me when you were telling before we turned on record, when you were telling me about this, that honor freed you.
Yeah.
It released you.
Yeah.
Really to be more of you. Michael, are you hearing this? When we speak into somebody's life, when we speak, and I love the word encouragement, it actually could be spelled I-N-C-O-R, I-N-courage, encourage. We're actually planting courage in people.
Mm-hmm.
We're telling them that we're telling them, go ahead and be brave. Be whatever's been holding you back, whatever you're fearing that's holding you back, don't be held back by that anymore. This is interesting. We sort of jokingly last week got into talking about the Shawshank Redemption, the movie, and Michael had a lot of things to say about that. He spends a lot of time ministering with the incarcerated, and we were talking about the different states of mind of the different characters. How Andy was always a free man, no matter how long they kept him in that jail. He knew he was innocent,
Mm-hmm.
and from the moment he got there, he acted like a man who thought, who was a thinking free, not a free thinker, but thinking free. By the way, free thinkers think free, right? Um, Red was Red was kind of on the margin, wasn't he? I mean, Red kind of said, well, you're pretty well destined. You might as well get used to it, et cetera, et cetera. Then the old librarian, Brian, I think was his name.
Brooks.
Brooks, you're
Yeah.
right. Brooks, even when he was let out, was never free. The institutionalization was so powerful in him that he literally couldn't find a way to live a free life. We talk about releasing people to be who they are.
Yeah.
Well, think about that, man. I mean, Michael does a lot of stuff on the power of your own identity. We're pretty amazing. We're actually have the DNA, the divine nature attributes, Michael, of God, right?
Come on. Come on.
Yeah, we do.
But here's the thing, though, when I said before we were recording, it's like we have to give ourselves permission.
Yeah.
Because we have so many people that do give us that encouragement, like, "You're awesome. I love you when you speak, da 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 da," whatever. When you share this or you share that, I love your post. I love da 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 da. But then we're like, "Oh, it's just Jesus," and we pass it off like it's not who we are. And so Dr. Tony just going, "I see you and I'm going to honor you where you are." And she doesn't even know my story. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take that honor and I'm going to make the most of it. And I give myself permission to be fully me. And so when I gave that talk, after that talk, she's like, will you come back and teach at my September retreat? And I said, yes, ma'am, I will. I will book my ticket today, you know? And so then I went back 2 weeks ago and was in Utah and spoke for 50 minutes. And there were 6 women that I spoke to, because it's a invitation only retreat. You have to fill out an application to be invited to come. And I got a standing ovation from these women. In a living room, I get a standing ovation. And then it's like, okay, I am good at this. I can do this. My voice does matter, and then giving my permission to fully walk in that, regardless of, I'm always going to have naysayers just because I'm bold and I'm out there and I'm in your face. It's whatever. People are always going to be against me. But, sometimes it's like dripping water and you're just like, I can't take anymore. But then I have to give myself permission again.
It's interesting. The fine line between honoring the Lord and deflecting the responsibility of being who we really are.
Oh, so good. Absolutely.
My man, Peter, I've told this group before, and I'll say it again. Early on, I'd been walking with the Lord, and zealously, by the way, because we don't know how to do it any other way. about 2 years, maybe 3, and another zealous young brother and I were talking to the pastor of the church we were involved in, and I don't even remember the subject, but the pastor said there are 12 personalities in every church. And he turned to me and he said, "Rob, you're a Peter." And apparently I looked a little elevated by that. He said, because the next thing he said is, that means I don't ever know whether you're going to walk across the baptistry or cut somebody's ear off, right? But my man Peter, I'll take that mantle, by the way. I'll take the mantle of the guy who got out of the boat.
Come on.
I have to recognize the mantle of the guy who at one point denied him.
Yeah.
But when Peter walks up to the lame man, who knows here comes this guy that's ahead of a group of people that have gathered they've sold all their goods and put them in a common pile, and this guy's in control of some resources, man. He can really do me some good. I'm a beggar. I need some help. This may be a really big mark for me. But when Peter says to him, "Silver and gold have I none, but such as I have, in the name of Jesus," that's the authority, but such as I have, I give unto you freely. Get up and walk. There's some pretty serious personal identity stuff going on there, right, Michael?
That's it, because he's recognizing the Christ in himself.
Right.
Such as I have Christ. So Christ in me is going to call Christ in you forward. Yeah.
That's good.
And Christ in you's not crippled, brother.
Nope. That's wrong identity. That's mistaken identity right there. Yeah.
And boy, there's no shortage of revelation, folks. It's there anytime we look for it. I've never seen that to that depth at all.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
I am calling I am.
Like Legion, who keeps coming up everywhere I am all of a sudden. Jesus said, "Dude, you don't need to follow me around and learn anymore, because we just figured out who you really are. You just accepted who you really are. You stay here." By the way, that was the non-Jewish side of the water. He was over there with the Gentiles, the pig farmers, right? But you don't need to follow me. You just stay here. And the next time Jesus comes back, there's 4,000 people that stay so long to hear what he has to say that he feeds them. We had dinner on the grounds that day, folks. My goodness. I thought about a lot of things to talk about today, and it's interesting how they just happen without without any of us even suggesting them. But I said something on a call the other day that I realized it just really floored me. I said everything God does is without precedent.
Mm.
I mean, regardless of what he does, you think, wow, I've never seen that before. And this morning I was pondering that. And everything he does is a fulfillment of a prophecy without precedent. Because he speaks it, he always starts it by speaking it. In the beginning, God.
That's when he spoke it.
Amen.
And now
And
it's just a continuation. So it was actually he spoke it into existence in the beginning, and it is manifesting still. It hasn't stopped. His original words have not stopped manifesting.
and they keep happening in ways that we've never seen them happen before. I mean, the conversation we just had, what I just saw about Peter and the lame guy, I've never seen that before. I've never heard it from anybody before. So there's this perpetual revelation, isn't there?
Come on.
Yeah.
Glory to glory, friend. Glory to glory. Revelation to revelation. Truth to truth. Continue to grow, expand, and continue to become who you already are.
And you are unprecedented. There has never been another Windy Justice ever in existence. There's never been a Sister June ever before in existence. So you are an unprecedented prophecy. You are here like no one has ever been before for such a time as this.
A unique representation of his attributes.
So I just got this patch to go on my backpack, and it
Yeah.
says, "I'm not perfect, but I'm a limited edition."
Well, actually, you are perfect, and you're a limited edition.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he creates any flaws.
Nope.
There's no, we're not going to sell it under the brand name. We're going to put it in a Kroger can, even though it's Del Monte, right? I mean, we've been taught that we're Kroger, and no disparaging to Kroger, by the way, but we've been taught that we're not quite name brand.
And if
But
we
you
are
can't be
named brand, go ahead.
But you can't be if you just eat from this tree and consume this knowledge and apply it to what you think you're supposed to be name brand.
Yeah, except the next week, you still haven't got it.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't quite got it yet. We're getting close, and we're gonna. I'm sorry. Say that again, Jody.
The do more, try harder gospel.
Yeah, it's like a treadmill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that we are the name brand, but we're pitched as being dented up and rip label and this in the discount bin because the can's dented.
Yeah, the as is. Yeah, that's right.
As is right here. I'm a work in progress.
And the truth of the matter is, those green beans are as good no matter what no matter what can they come out of.
Yep.
Yeah. Because it's all coming from the same source.
Christ within.
Wow.
Christ calling Christ. Yeah.
My. Sister Wendy, what's on your heart today? I got to tell you, by the way, I call on Wendy because I married a woman like Wendy. She sits quietly, smiles, has nice hair, by the way. She sits quietly and smiles, and the wheels are turning. What are you hearing, Wendy?
So when you were talking about God setting precedents, I started thinking about the implications of that, because sometimes I think we forget when we're called to do something difficult that he has set the precedent, and he's never asked us to do anything that he's not already done. He never asked us to go through something that he hasn't already been through. And, I know when I'm going through a difficulty, it is so comforting to find somebody else who's had a similar experience that you can open up and share with, and, know that they get it. And so him setting the precedence means he gets it. He gets me, he gets what I'm going through, he gets what I'm feeling. There's still value in me sharing it. So often I think people go, oh, well, I don't have to tell God that because he already knows. It's like, yeah, there's a difference though in what people observe you going through on the outside versus you cracking your heart open and telling them what's going on inside. That's a different level of vulnerability that you're bringing into that situation, and he desires that vulnerability from us. The other thing, go ahead.
No, please continue.
Nobody else said anything. She's like, go ahead.
I heard, it sounded like Bob was going to say something. And the other thing that I was thinking about is it's Melissa. Okay, you changed your name. It's Melissa. I was like, I think her name's Melissa. When Melissa was sharing about honoring people and how that gives permission, I can remember when I have a performing arts background, and I can remember doing a show one year where I had been cast as the lead, and we'd been doing several run-throughs so far, but we were getting close. We were probably, I don't know, a week or so away from the show opening. And the choreographer that I was good friends with came up to me, and I had had a leading role, I don't know, several years earlier in a different show. And he said, I don't know why you're holding back, but this is your opportunity to shine, and we need you to shine. He was like, that star quality that you had from that show a few years back, we need that in this show. Like, we need that from you. And I wasn't offended by it. I was so, I think in pondering it afterwards, I was like, oh, I didn't even realize I was holding back. I didn't, it didn't dawn on me. And so him just speaking that to me actually did give me the permission to step into the role that I was called to play for that season and for that time. And it's such, Melissa, you were talking about how Dr. Tony did that for you. It is such a place of honor to be that person who calls that out in another individual, who speaks that life, who speaks that encouragement to them. And you sometimes you may not even realize the impact of what you're doing in that moment, but sometimes they'll come back, days, weeks, months, years later and say, oh, when you told me this, that just blew the doors wide open for me. That changed my life. That, whatever. And it brings that permission, it brings that freedom into that place where maybe they didn't even know they were holding back. Maybe they didn't know that there were, chains that were keeping them from stepping into and being all that they could be in that situation. And I just love how the Lord created it that way, that we do need each other, and how important community and fellowship is. Because again, when my choreographer friend said that to me, part of it was we had a pre-existing relationship, and so I knew he wasn't just coming and being critical of me. He was calling me and inviting me into something that I didn't realize, was even a need at the time. But because we had that relationship already, I trusted him, and I knew that he was not against me, that he was for me. And again, it's just such a, reason number 5071 of why we need to stay connected, why it's important for us to cultivate relationships in our lives, because there may come that time where, if that you have to call something out of someone, and they need to know that you're doing it not from a place of criticism, you're not exposing lack, but you're actually inviting them into something better. And if you've cultivated that relationship, they know, hey, she's for me, he's for me. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
So you can look somebody in the eye and say with complete confidence, I, Wendy, I, Melissa, I, June, I, Michael, I, Bob, I came that you, person, might have life, and that more abundantly. I've never seen that way. That's here we go, Michael, to being Jesus in the earth, man. Jim Palmer introduced me that concept about 15 years ago in his book, Being Jesus in Nashville. And that's our deal. But I referred to it in my father's son. I'm doing my assignment, and his work's not a chore. I have my brothers and my sisters, and we're looking for some more. But we are here that we might have life and that more abundantly.
Come on.
We and 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 that person, for a moment, that choreographer in his area of endeavor in your life, you were his congregation for a minute there. I'm telling you, the world is our congregation. By the way,
He was
not
pastoring me in that moment.
absolutely, he was pastoring you in that. He was bringing the best out in you.
Yeah.
The most important lesson I ever got from a teacher ever in my life, 8th grade, the really hip orchestra guy we had, who I was always very impressed with because he could just pick up an instrument and play it. And he said to me one day, "Come down to when you finish lunch, come down to the music room. I want to show you something." And boy, I gobbled my lunch down. I went down there, and we were playing an old show tune called "Me and My Shadow," an orchestra. And he said, "Get your sheet music and your bass and come down by the piano." And I did, and he started playing "Me and My Shadow," and I was playing my bass part, right? And then he said, "Now put away your music and play what you hear." The minute we understand, the minute people confirm in us, Melissa, the minute we're able to convey, Michael, to people that they aren't flawed, they've really got something to offer.
Come on.
We can say, you know what? Go ye therefore and play what you hear.
Well, here's the thing. Going back to what Romans 8:18, creation waits for the children of God. Okay, you are creation. We think about, we can speak to mountains and have them moved, and we can, talk to the sea and have it calm. No, I can look you in the eye and go, okay, because I am me and I see it in you, like what you said when you talked about the Acts 3, I'm broke. I don't have any money to put in your pocket, but let me tell you something. Prophetically, this is what I see in you, and we can draw that out. We can raise people up. We can call it's cliche, but digging out the gold, but it's just identity. We can speak to their identity. I mean, Wendy, you needed that, whatever it was. And I was thinking of, like I was on another call and we were talking about the lies and the things that we believe are just grave clothes. They just keep us dead to who we are. And when I can speak life to you, that's allowing you to take off a layer of grave clothes. Because Lazarus, Jesus spoke to him, but he still chose to come up out of the grave, right? He could have no, I'm with God. Why am I going to come back out and be with these sisters? Have you seen my sisters? But he didn't. He chose to agree with that life. And that's what we do for people. And we can encourage that encouragement to not partner with the negative that we see and go, hey, this really isn't who you are. And that is what's in me speaking to what's in you. It is that Acts 3.
It could be the most motivational and encouraging statement ever made in history is Lazarus, come forth.
Yeah. Just get up and let's go do something.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, I think the closer we are to the presence of the Father, the more we want to be among His creation. I don't. First of all, there's all kinds of errors that we've been taught about heaven. We're not going to be on a cloud. The streets aren't gold, and harps are D18 Martin guitars. By the way, just for the record. But I can see Lazarus saying, man, I love the story of Lazarus, but I've never seen it before. I can see Lazarus saying, wow, thanks, Lord, because now that I've seen what I've seen,
come on,
I've really got some life to give people. And that spirit that raised me from the dead, that spirit that will raise you from the dead, you're allowing me to bring that spirit back in a way that no one can deny, keeping in mind that that's when they put the price on Jesus' head, and they also put a price on Lazarus' head, because we can't have that witness running around talking. Do you realize what's happening right here in this call right now?
All heaven is leaning in.
And we are giving each other permission.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, in that same story, after Jesus raised Lazarus, the next thing he did was he looked at them and said, remove the grave clothes from him. That's just what you're talking about, Melissa.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We are to take, it said there was a napkin on his face, on his eyes, on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And so Christ gives people life. And then one another, we are to remove the grave clothes.
Community, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Bob, it was like when and I've thought about it almost daily since I had you on, interviewed you on the podcast, which is probably going to come out next week or so. But when you talked about, and I had never thought of it, and you opened my eyes and opened up a whole day's worth of retreat interaction. But when you think about, the woman at the well, for those of you who don't know, my podcast is After the Well, and it's based around the woman at the well. And you talked about, all the goodness that Jesus talked to her about, and she went back and in so many thoughts right now, but I get excited because nobody needs to know their junk. We all know our junk, right? Nobody needs to point out that I am, can speak out of turn sometimes and all the things. But when I can say, hey, you need to come hang out with this guy because he told me everything about me, and I'm not broken, I'm not wrong, and all of these good things. And he reminds me of the time that I prayed for this guy who was dead and he literally came back to life. And he reminds me of all the good things. Jesus did not sit at the well telling the woman all the negative things about her 5 marriages. And, he's only going to tell us the good things. And then that's what we get to go back and tell people. We get to share people the goodness of God, the good gospel, the gospel of good news. Not, I know you're stuck in pornography and there's 12 steps for that kind of thing. But we can man, you know what? You are loved so much, the rest of that stuff's not going to matter. Because when you realize who you are, you're not even going to think about that. The woman at the well, she didn't, Jesus said, go get your husband. And she's like, okay, you're a prophet. Let's talk about where we worship. She didn't go, okay, can I have a conversation about those 5 marriages? No, because they didn't matter, because she knew the goodness that I believe she could feel it. And that's, I think, what we bring to people that helps them take off their grave clothes, and what I think we're called to do, not throw silver and gold, but okay, this is what I have. I have the truth of a good God who loves me. And let me help you see that too.
We're to search for the light in them.
Yes.
And then say, light be. Call that light forward. And as that light, every river has a source. That river of living water has a source. That river of light and life and love has a source, and it is in every single human being. And we are to search and find that in them and call that forth. Life forth, come forth. It's like raising Lazarus from the dead. It's life come forth out of that deadness that they are carrying. And we're calling them into a true identity. And you're absolutely right, Melissa. We don't have to talk about the false identity. We don't have to focus on behavior. If we focus on true identity in them, behavior changes automatically.
Yep.
That becomes a thing that is not even thought about. I don't have to think about what I need to change. And that is really the problem with most all of religion. They try and tell you how to change your behavior. If they would change their whole mindset into focus on identity, because once true identity starts coming forth, once that river starts to flow out of them, everything in their behavior changes without a checklist of what I have to start watching out and avoid. It just changes everything. My choices, my desires, my wants, everything in my being is now desiring to continue to flow in that river. And I'm not going on this checklist of do's and don'ts and what I can and can't do. And, can I watch that program on TV? All of that, it just changes. So we're to search for every human being we come in contact with, look diligently at where the light is in them, and then say, light be. We call that, we recognize that, we honor the light in them, which then causes them to dance like they've never danced before. It causes them to come to a different level of honor. Just like you were talking about speaking at Tony's thing, it just brings you to a different level of recognizing your true identity that was covered in grave clothes, and just pulls you forward. And that's what we are to do. Call that which is formless and void into being and give it form by letting the light in them begin to resonate and flow.
And the darker it is, the more apparent the light is.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
I mean, I think about ships at sea during war. How dark can it get out there, right? I mean, you talk about no light pollution. You're out on the Atlantic in the Second World War in the North Atlantic in the middle of a moonless night, and they won't let you smoke on deck because the light of a cigarette lighter or the light of a cigarette, because it's so dark. Because it's so dark, even that teeny light can be seen for miles. The most articulates, some of the most powerful testimonies I know, and I know several of them personally, were really, really, really good at sinning. I mean, they were very accomplished. I was an accomplished sinner. I was good at really screwing things up. But what comes from that darkness is, wait a minute, there's a light. And a tiny touch of light dispels volumes of dark. Look at a night light in your house on a moonless night. Little LCD bulb at a plug-in. And think about how bright that light. All day long you don't notice it. Of course, it's not even on. Other lights dispelled it, right? Every light, bigger light has shut it down. But when it gets dark.
Hey, Bob, not
Yeah.
to interrupt you, but Wendy put a comment. Can you let her in? Can you let her back in?
Yeah, when she comes back in.
Okay, I didn't know if you saw that or whatever. Yes.
Yeah,
And
no,
also,
but
yes, there's
yeah.
nothing worse than a little hotel in the hotels when you got the little light that's on the smoke detector that's like a beacon after it's dark. Yes. Point taken.
I was asleep in my big chair in the living room one night. I do that from time to time, and I was asleep in my big chair, and I looked up at the ceiling, and here was this little spot of light, and I thought, good grief, am I having a moment here? I mean, wow, that's really cool. Smoke detector light, but it was so apparent to me, and it's always there. That light's always on, day and night, right? But on a particularly dark night, I saw it. Man, courage. Authorizing people to be who they are.
Come on.
Not telling them to be somebody else, and not telling them to be like you, by the way.
Come on.
Play what you hear, man.
You know, that recognizing the light in them and calling that light forward is taking the spotlight off of yourself so that it can shine through them. That's that submitting to the authority of Christ in them to allow Christ in them to come forth, which totally takes the spotlight off you. And that's but too often we want the spotlight. Look at my light. Look at how bright my light's shining. And to call other people forward is to let them be the light, and you no longer be the light.
That same music teacher that said, "Play what you hear," used to say about great musicians. He'd say, "There's plenty of room at the top." You don't have to diminish the other guy. What you actually do,
enhance.
You enhance the other guy.
Come on.
The ultimate example, by the way, in my lifetime of unity is a good band, and I've played in some. And what happens is you have this common mission. It's called a song. And you kind of agree to some basics. You agree we're going to play it in E flat or D or whatever we're going to play it in. And you kind of agree in the tempo. Everybody kind of needs to be unified on how fast or slow we're playing it. But in a great band, from that point forward, everybody is trying to their best, their greatest focus is, what can I do here to make everybody else sound good so the mission is great. I mean, I started out as a bass player, and I've always been the guitar player that could walk into a room and play bass. And most guitar players don't play bass very well, but it was my first instrument, so that's what I play. I like playing. Played it in a lot of places rather than playing guitar because there were great guitar players around. The bass player gets to lay down the foundation that lets everybody else excel. And when you walk into a room, when you're on a phone call with somebody, when you're on a Zoom call with somebody, if you'll see it as a song, you're in the band. And somebody starts the tune, and you hear how it's going, man. You can hear the rhythm, you hear the key, you're starting to hear the lyrics. Look for your spot. There are two things that are really important: what you play and what you don't play. The great bass players in this world, for example, are guys who leave spots, and you're not even really aware of it until they come back in. Man, the list is endless of these guys, and I could name a bunch of them. But what you're doing is you lay down that bass note, and that gives something for the guitar player and the keyboard player and so on. That gives them something to and they go in and play these great little fills and do these great little things. And the lead singer sings, and the people singing harmony, man, are looking for those notes that make that tonic, make that melody line, that enhance it, make it large. Probably some of the best guys ever in the world at that were the Eagles, man. They did 5-part harmony. Nobody does 5-part harmony, but they did. And listen to it. It's astounding what it does. And all those things make the mission undeniable. And that's the song. Yeah. And then
what I love about, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say what I love about your example of playing in the band, and even my example of being in that show. It's not that either one of us was doing anything wrong. It's like the instructor, the choreographer, whatever, wasn't coming and going, oh, you're not playing the notes right, or you're pitchy, or you forget your lines, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It wasn't about like, you're just not doing this right. Here, let me show you how to do it better. It was like, there's something in you that is unique to you that I want to pull out, that I want to call out, draw out, because it's needed. It's needed for the benefit of everyone, that your uniqueness be represented. That's what I love about, put the music away and let's play what you feel and what you hear that is unique to you. It's really beautiful.
What is your nuance? I'm doing a lot of study on artificial intelligence right now, and it's pretty fascinating what some of that stuff can do. But nuance it can't do. And I want to tell you that we're not ever going to be able to teach it to do nuance. God made man and man made computers, folks. They may be able to they are able to disseminate information in marvelous ways, but there's no spirit in them. And you notice they're calling it artificial intelligence. They're not calling it artificial spiritualism, because they can't do that. That won't happen for them. And fine, good that it won't happen, because what we need is a nuance. They're saying, good grief, it's going to replace art, and it's going to replace writing, and it's going to replace music. I remember 40 years ago when electronic music came along, and everybody was saying, oh my gosh, they're going to have this keyboard that can do this and it can do that. Well, guess what? Stevie Wonder's got all the keyboards in the world. None of them could do it without Stevie. None of them could do it without Stevie. He uses all these effects and does all this stuff, but they're all subject to Stevie. And what comes out's great, but we don't say, man, did you hear the latest chord keyboard song? No, we say, did you hear the latest Stevie Wonder song? Because the persona, that spirit that was spoken into existence, that unique individual that was a little blind boy that could play harmonica years ago, that didn't stop there. And he's got projects where he played every instrument on them. You don't know that. When he comes out on stage and plays them, he's got guys covering what he was doing. But he's a classic example of a limitless creation that takes the newest whatever it is and lays the human spirit on top of it. That's what makes it work. Wow.
You know, the that calling light and life out of people, that's calling the creativity out of them, but it's using them to create it. It's the creator doesn't create without them. The creator creates through them. I like George MacDonald. He says, when the thought becomes a thinker, because a thought becomes the thing. A thought creates. So when the thought, we are thoughts, become thinkers, we now become creators. So when the thought becomes a thinker, is the light in us creating in a formless void world. The world was formless and void, and he is still giving it form through us, with us, as us.
26, let us make man in our own image. That's a thought. 27, so God made man in his own image. That's the manifestation of a thought. That goes from being a thought to a thinker. Because what did he do there? He took a thought and created thinkers.
Yep.
Wow.
So recognizing the light in somebody and calling that forward, that honoring thing. We started this whole thing talking about that, honoring others. We are honoring that creativity, that creator in them. We're honoring the creator in them to come forth and create, which is creating their identity as they create.
The story of Einstein coming home from grade school with a letter from the teacher, and his mother reading it and saying, well, I have a letter from your teacher here, and it says that you are so exceptional that we need to get you in a better school, that she just can't, their teaching skills are just not up to how exceptional an individual you are. So we're going to put you in a different school. The real letter said, this kid's incorrigible and we can't handle him, and we don't want him here anymore. But what mom did is she released the creativity in little Albert.
Called it forward. Yep.
And it wouldn't go away, even when he's working the mundane job of a patent clerk. And he's riding the public transit back and forth to work. And there's this clock that he sees every day. And it caused him to start thinking about time. And the next thing you know, we have E equals MC squared. A total elevation of how we think about what we do, and it applies so many places and has taken us so many far beyond what we knew before. Because Mom said, wow, you're so smart that we need to put you at a better school, instead of saying, good grief, boy, what's the matter with you? You need to straighten up. You need to fit in the box. You need to toe the line. You need to be average.
And then it was that mundane job that put him in a position of seeing that clock every day that started the wheels turning about something bigger.
The job was mundane, but the guy wasn't.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
And my man Moses got by with murder, hooked up with the eldest daughter of a sonless sheik, a wealthy man, had it made. But the kid whose mama loves him so much that she'll trust God with him by putting him in a basket and put him out on a river rather than let him be just average and treated like everybody else. He just couldn't walk by that bush. One of the most powerful scriptures of the Bible to me is, I must turn aside.
Mm-hmm.
This is not, it might be cool. That's not what he said. I am compelled by everything that's happened, by all the life that's been spoken into me up until now, by all the experiences I've had, by all the things I've got Pharaoh's education, man, and I'm out here herding sheep. What am I going to do with that? I've got it made. I'm going to be wealthy. I'm going to inherit my wife's dad's stuff. But is this it? And here's this anomaly. And guys like that can't pass an anomaly. They got to stop and look. And that burning bush turned into the fire by night that led him through the desert, man. Cloud by day and a fire by night, showing me the way to move when he's moving and stay when he stays. Danny Daniels, a group Bethlehem, man. Yeah. Everything around you is intended to bring you to the point to be the maximum of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And there are signs along the way. Wendy will never be quite the same individual that she was before that guy said, you know what? We really need Wendy to show up today.
Come on.
Melissa will never be the same as she was before Dr. Tony said, you know what? You've really got something to say, and I don't say that easily. But you've really got something to say. Say it. Nothing will ever replace what happened in June's life that caused her to say one day, wait a minute. There's more here than this. And here we are now, people, recording the latest, greatest verse of the Now Testament. It's amazing.
Living Testament.
Yeah, it's perpetual. You can't, the book itself says the book can't contain it. So the book says, read the book, but here's a real big thing I want you to get out of reading me. The story doesn't stop here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in order to try, it would be a bigger volume than the book on how to understand a woman, Michael. I mean, and I'm just saying, and wow. What else are we hearing, people? and we're under obligation. We're not under obligation to go anywhere that we haven't already been. I just want to make sure that we get everything from this we've got today.
I just keep going back to, like I wrote in the comments, encounters give us permission.
Come on.
You know, every encounter that you think about in scripture, old and new covenant, whatever testament, however you want to say it, every one, whether it was just the voice of God they heard in their heart or their encounters with Jesus, every encounter was permission. Every conversation the disciples had with Jesus was permission to be greater than they were in that moment. You know,
Opportunity.
and it just keeps going around and around, because I'm a natural encourager, and you know, just having encounters with people and asking them questions, and they're like, I don't know, I never thought about that. I don't know, I've never asked myself that. Well, let's have that conversation. What does God say about that? You know, and having that moment to see God, you know, because we talked about you said something about the mundane. Going to the well to get water was a mundane task. And yet that encounter, we're still talking about 2000 plus years later, right? And it's impacted my life in such a way that I've had an encounter with her encounter, and now I'm doing this. I'm doing a better version of me, a more whole and more complete version, because I have permission. And I'm going to do a preach on that when I get done. I'm going to record a teaching that, you know, just every encounter, we just give ourselves more and more permission. And when we encounter other people, like right here, just I've written like notes and notes of things because of the goodness that is coming out of you guys, because you're just being you. And that has given me permission to go, okay, wow, let me think about this way. You know, and I think I just grab onto permission because growing up, I didn't have permission, you know? And so that's a thing that, like, I don't believe that the church allows us to have. The church is full of you can't, because you didn't go to seminary, you haven't been here this long, you don't tithe enough, you know, you're not a member of the church, whatever the list of stuff is, it's always you can't, because. And go ahead.
Add Rachel Cannon on the podcast, and go find it. It's posted out on the mirror wall, and it's posted out on the tacos wall. She wrote a book about the woman she did her doctoral thesis about the woman at the well. Longest conversation, by the way, I didn't know this. Longest conversation with Jesus in the Bible is the conversation with the woman at the well. He wasn't supposed to be there, by the way. Samaritan Jews walked around Samaria to keep from getting it on their shoes, literally. By the way, he's meeting alone with the woman. That's absolutely unacceptable in ministerial ethics, right? I mean, the list of reasons why that shouldn't have happened is very long, based on religion. But yeah, read her. At least go hear what she's got to say about that. You two need to hook up, by the way, Melissa. Do you know Rachel Cannon?
Oh yeah, I love Rachel. Yeah, we've had several conversations, and she's supposed to be on my podcast several times, but she got sick and travel. It hasn't worked out. So
she's available now, but I've got her for the next 2 weeks. So keep your hands off, okay? You know,
it's all right. She's enough to go around.
Yeah, she's got plenty to go around. There's no shortage of Rachel Cannon, let me tell you.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome.
Permission.
I know I haven't said much. I've just been listening.
Go, Jody.
I've just been really listening because quite a few of you know that I was over in the States for 6 weeks, and I've just come back. And I feel like during that time, sometimes through other people, but also directly from God. I've kind of been given permission to step out and be someone that I've always been, but hasn't really been at the forefront of who I am. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, I've just come back. I've been back for a week, and my next challenge is to find a new job. And my job has always been in admin, finance, kind of in the background, supporting the, administrations, that sort of thing. But I feel like God's been challenging me to step out from behind the scenes a bit, and not to be a boss or anything like that, but to step out more into who I am. And it's just a challenge because I don't quite know what that means in the way of a job. And I've had a few interesting discussions with people in the last couple of days that may lead into some different roles. But yeah, just this whole thing about being kind of called out, or all that is just, I'm processing it. So I just want to say thank you for the conversation, because I've been taking it on board. The other thought that I had earlier on in the piece is what we're talking about is so countercultural, because, most of Western society is about the individual standing up and claiming their place. And this is all about supporting each other and building each other up. And it's focused on the other rather than the self, I suppose. Anyway, that was my couple of comments. So thanks, guys.
Jack Kennedy's always said a rising tide floats all boats. When you make other people's lives better, you make everybody's lives better.
Yeah.
Now the culture that would drag us down, and it's even true in the religious cultures, it's called zero sum. Somebody has to lose for you to win. Right down to Jesus had to die. Jesus had to die because you're so bad.
Right.
Jesus was killed by people who had a vested interest in keeping zero sum going. I tell young people all the time, young business people I work with, if you're in a business where somebody has to lose for you to win, it's just going to be a matter of time till it gets around to you losing. Find something where everybody's a winner. At least everybody has a fair opportunity to be a winner. Some people choose to lose, by the way, and you can't help that. It's amazing. The people that I see that choose to lose are not the people that end up unemployed, but the people who can't satiate their greed.
Yeah.
The people, what a horrendous trap that nothing's ever enough. Gandhi said there's enough for everybody's need. There's not enough for their greed.
Mm-hmm.
But as we give, we just experience getting. I mean, it just happens. Everybody in the show was better. Everybody that came to the show was better, Wendy. Because Wendy reached down and found a little more Wendy, you know. And of course, Wendy is better because now she knows there's something down there that she didn't realize was there before. An 8th grader playing what he heard had me playing jazz bass gigs when Mom had to take me to the job because I still didn't have a driver's license. But there was something in there that I didn't know was there until somebody said it, gave me permission, gave me a permit. I had a license, if you will, all of a sudden to be who I really was, by the way. It wasn't being somebody else, it was being who I really was. Everybody on this call has realized a license, a permit, not to be who somebody told you to be, but to be who you really are. That, by the way, threatens people.
Right. And the beauty is, I see Jesus gives us, his encounters with us give us permission to be who we are. The church doesn't. I was thinking, here's encounters. Here's a woman at the well. She's had 5 husbands. She's not living a good life. And Jesus appears to her. You have doubting Thomas, who doesn't even believe, and Jesus appears. You have Paul, who's a terrorist, murdering people, and Jesus appears. He gives us, this is totally against church. He gives us permission to make mistakes and be who we are. His encounters with us. We don't get that from other people. We don't get that from the church. We get that from him. And he calls forth, that encounter calls forth who we are. He gives us permission to make mistakes. People need that, and to know they're okay.
Can I read this? One of these writings I did from several years back, but it's called Burning Hearts, and I'm just going to take 2 minutes here and just read this. So it's based on the verse in Luke 24:27 through 33. This is the NIV. And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them what was said in all the scriptures concerning himself. This is Jesus talking to the 2 on the road to Emmaus. As they approached the village to which they were going, Jesus continued on as if he were going further, but they urged him strongly, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening. The day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. They asked each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he talked with us on the road and opened the scriptures to us?" They got up and returned at once to Jerusalem. It's in normal days, at normal times, doing routine things that we have opportunity through who would appear to be total strangers to encounter Jesus. It was in the offer of hospitality to this one who appeared to be a total stranger, and in the breaking of bread together in fellowship. Whenever you do this in remembrance of me, that they recognized Jesus. There was no need for one to try to convince the other that what they were saying was truth, because when the truth is spoken, hearts are burning. No convincing, no persuading, no manipulating. If someone can talk you into something, then someone else can talk you out of it. If someone can persuade you to act and do differently, then under the right conditions, the accuser can persuade you to go back to the ways you just left. But when the absolute truth is spoken, hearts will be burning within. When hearts are burning on the inside, lives are changed on the outside. No convincing, no persuading, no manipulating. Just permanent, no going back to that false identity, outward change. Change from the inside out. A burning heart always sees their true God-given identity, and identity always takes us to destiny. Burning hearts will change the direction they are heading and the roads they are taking. Just like those 2 men who were on the road to Emmaus, when they turned back to Jerusalem, burning hearts will turn their direction without manipulation and head back in the direction of their destiny. Burning hearts find their true identity and return to their God-given destiny. As we're talking about mundane things, as we're talking about permission, as we're talking about encounters, as we're talking about somebody telling you, Wendy, I need you to be the best that you are. It's in you. Call it out. All those encounters cause those encounters with truth because somebody saw the truth in us. And we had an encounter during a mundane situation where the truth was recognized and our hearts began to burn. And as our hearts began to burn, there was no manipulation, no intimidation, no persuasion. It was just a speaking of the truth to a burning heart that changed the direction of where they were heading, and their identity became something new, became true, which changed their destiny. Yeah, I just wanted to share that fit all this whole conversation we've been talking about.
I'll take poetic license with my friend Steve Grauberger's lyric, "May the bridges that I burn light my way." I would say, may the burning of my heart light my way.
Come on. And we recognize that light and that fire in each other. And when we recognize that fire burns, which then lights our way. Yes, yes. We don't persuade. We don't talk somebody into it. We don't beg them. We just recognize the light and life and say, light be, and everything changes. We give them permission to be who they are because the light is who they are.
I came that you might have your life and that more abundantly.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to add here right now.
Just presence.
Lord, thank you for letting us be.
Come on.
Thank you for creating us. And thank you for reminding us that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. Let us go through our time being fearful and wonderful, man. Let us scare the hell out of religion so it can see heaven.
Come on.
Thank you, Jesus.
And thank you for not letting us be.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Very sweet. Very sweet today. Very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to call it right here, okay?
No worries. I'm off to bed then.
What time is it over there?
Almost 1 a.m.
Way to go. Sweet dreams.
I will end it with what I always said to the Grateful
Lovely
Save.
to see you all.
What I always said to the Grateful Save when we started to walk on stage, let's go out there and give them heaven.
There we go.
See you guys soon. Love you.
All right. Love you guys.
Bye, everybody.